Hey everybody, welcome to the Mirko Movie Guys. I'm Clint Schaffer, and this is my buddy Chad Weeks.
And we're a couple guys who like movies and like to talk about movies. Clint, we got a special guest tonight. Mye Hoang is going to be joining us, talking about her movie. What's her movie?
Cat Daddies.
Cat Daddies. And as a cat daddy myself, I'm pretty excited about this.
This is an amazing documentary. Chad and I watched it up at the Julian Dubuque International Film Festival, last weekend?
Yep.
And it was absolutely awesome. We are so excited to have Mye on, so stay tuned. Grab your popcorn.
Fill up your drinks.
And enjoy the show. Mye, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us here. How about you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hi, I'm Mye Hoang. I'm the director of Cat Daddies, a new documentary on the film festival circuit.
Now, when you say film festival circuit, how many different festivals are you showing Cat Daddies at now?
I'm at the end of a 6-month run. I've maybe done somewhere around 20. And then I have like about a 6-week break, and then it starts up again, maybe here and there, like the summer and the fall.
And this is all going to be based off of Cat Daddies, is the fall session as well?
Yes, yeah, I have a few that I know for sure are happening. Some I'm still waiting to hear back from. So yeah, we'll just keep going for as long as we can.
Outstanding.
Well, I know we ended up seeing you up at the Julian Dubuque International Film Festival, and believe it or not, that was actually Chad and I's first go at a film festival, so we'd never been to one before.
Oh, no way.
And,
wow.
Yeah, and we were trying to figure out what movie we were going to watch, and we came across your film, and Chad over here is a cat dad.
Yeah. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a proud cat dad, and so like. I shouldn't say that because I tell my wife that I'm not their dad, I'm their roommate, that sort of thing. So I've always said that I'm their roommate. So
you don't discipline them or anything. You just sort of discipline them or anything. You don't discipline them or anything. They just hang out with you.
They don't listen. Yeah, they don't listen to me even if I did. So, but the thing is, when Clint and I were driving home from that, it's about a 2.5-hour drive for us. So we talked about this film. The whole way home, and literally the entire time I was watching this, like I had a huge smile across my face because it's just, I love what you've done with it. Again, attacking like the toxic masculinity behind cats and that sort of thing. I think it's awesome because we don't look at that enough. We don't take care of that enough because there's always this stigma. And I heard it going on throughout the movie a lot where they would say, growing up, I didn't have cats, or it wasn't cool. I didn't want to. You don't even want to admit that you're a cat person or whatever. You see it all the time. Yeah. And I love that you went out and sought out to get that. So, is that something you sought out personally, or is that something that just kind of it presented itself, or what was your inspiration to do this?
Yeah, initially those were the stories that I was after to get, and I just personally wanted to make a movie that I would want to watch. I literally ran out of cat content to watch. I've seen everything. And I was actually surprised no one had tackled, men and their cats, because you see it like on social media all the time. Men are very proud now to have their kitty cats. And I get a kick out of it every time I see it. It gives me this Marie Kondo spark joy. It could come from the fact that I grew up with a very stern father and very, unemotional men in my family. So I think just seeing that just gives me a little dose of happiness. And I thought, why not make a movie about this? And, at the time, also around that time, my husband, wasn't a cat, when we were dating, he was not a cat guy at all. And then without my influence, a cat found him one day, and the rest is history. I mean, and it was such a, it's like I just couldn't have foreseen that. None of his family. It was very shocking. So I just think that it is true. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And I think he just didn't know that he could, love cats. So I thought, there must be many other men. So as a side benefit of making this movie that I wanted to see for myself, I thought maybe this could open more hearts, more houses, for pets, but especially for cats in general. Because I think they are a great pet for like men who maybe are very busy and they just don't know because they don't. A lot of people don't see what it's really like to live with a cat. I mean, I think there's a lot of misconceptions and they're all very different, creatures. They have different personalities, and you just got to find the right one for you.
Well, you talked about making a movie that you would like to watch, and I will say that you definitely created a movie that we like to watch.
Yes.
So
Oh,
hats off
great.
to the production of this. You talked about trying to find these stories, and I guess one of the questions I would have is, how did you seek out all the different characters that are in this movie, telling their story about their relationship with their cats, and even getting into their life stories as well? How did you go about I guess casting for this?
David and Lucky, especially, like that's a really tough
Yeah.
one to like. I don't know how. Yeah, go ahead.
Most of the guys I was already following on social media, they have a lot of them are like Instagram celebrities. So of course I already knew about them. I thought, oh, it'd be so cool. They were in a movie like on the big screen. Really wanted to get Gold Kitty, like shoot Gold Kitty in 4K, CinemaScope, have it like larger than life. That would be so awesome. Again, selfishness. And then
Yeah.
um, I was already filming, so I had already cast and I was already filming. And out of the blue, someone messaged me, someone who had been friends with David and Lucky, trying to help him for a couple years get off the street. They were running out of options, and I think just out of desperation, she reached out, thought, he's perfect story for the film. And at first, I was resistant because I was already done casting. We'd already started filming, and it was so tonally different from everything else I was doing. And I thought, like, I don't know, I just don't know if I can make this work, and I don't know if I could, make his, give justice to his story. But as soon as we actually met him and talked to him and like learned more, it just was clear we had to have him. He said himself, in his words, that he has nothing else to live for except his cat, who he saved. And so, how can that not get you? And of course, we had to like just try to make something happen and try to make it work into the movie. And then, we didn't even know what was to come. And what happened was, is the pandemic happened, and then some of the guys that we had cast, we couldn't travel to. So we had to drop some of the people we had lined up, or the pandemic created enough anxiety that some people just weren't their hearts weren't in it anymore. So that actually left room for us to follow David's story, which of course was, more complicated, and it needed that. So we followed him, all year, and so yeah, it was just really luck and just sort of like, I guess it was just meant to be, and that's how it all worked out. And it was kind of tricky to kind of make the film work because it's, there's bittersweet moments, and there's funny parts, as you guys mentioned, but there's also parts that really get to you deeply.
Very real stuff.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you probably unintentionally, but I think you probably did a great justice for like the stigma towards the homeless population too, because David is an incredibly likable character,
Mhm.
and like you just really you're rooting for him throughout this thing. So like you see that, and I don't. Did you feel that as well? Like I feel like if people watch this, they're going to fall in love with David and say, "Man, I hope things work out for him and Lucky," type of thing. So, and I think that could really help out when you walk by a homeless person on the street. It could be a David right there. That sort of thing. That's what I kind of feel as well. So
Yeah, I
I don't know how you feel.
mean, every unhoused person is not the same. Their stories are not the same. We can't just assume. And definitely, I learned that. I mean, I already knew that going into this, but
Yeah.
hearing David's story, just the complications that he has to get help, to get medical assistance, to get into the shelter, incredible. I couldn't even capture it all. I learned so much from his situation, but also, it also, I think, unintentionally, but I embraced it. I think it did destigmatizes a lot of different types of men, also like truck drivers, the police officer that befriends David,
Chris.
yeah, Chris.
We liked him a lot too.
Yeah. The guy.
Chris has like just a huge heart on him. I mean, that is, I loved seeing the connection between him and David.
Yeah, kind of stereotypical Staten Island guy, but at the same time, just heart of gold. And just to see, I think like for me, it's, their relationship means so much. And I'm so glad I captured that in the movie, because I didn't want to just show David as just a guy on the street. He has friends. He has a social life. He has people that care about him. Yeah, it's dynamic. It's not, it's not what you think it is.
Well, a couple of things too on David's side and that perspective. You talk about maybe thinking of folks without homes or folks without houses, looking at that a little bit differently. The other piece to that is you hear it a lot of people question, well, if they don't have a house, why do they have a pet, right? And I think that drew a lot of light to that. And it's like, I think of David and Lucky, and you talked about David saving Lucky. Lucky saved David too, right? Like in that same sense. And I thought that was just a powerful story of that is what he revolved his day around, was trying to take care and protect that cat. And I thought that was just a great way to drive that story home. And I think it's something that other people have asked that question. I think this film will help answer that.
Yeah, there's not another cat on the planet that's getting more attention than Lucky is, really.
Absolutely.
Some of the things that I learned also about his story was that he had found other kittens before. So there was just something special about Lucky. It wasn't just like this was his first kitten he came across. When he worked in construction, they were finding kittens all the time. Some of them he rehomed. But there was just something special about Lucky that, he just felt, he had to be there for him. They had to stay together. So I thought that was really, really touching to me. And also, it is a little controversial. I mean, there were actually people who would see him on the street and try to take Lucky away from him. And was just like, how could you do this? You can't have this cat on the street. And like, I get it, but at the same time, like, you can't say like, who is anyone to say, who is privileged enough to have a cat or a pet?
Correct.
I mean, sometimes maybe the less privileged deserve love too.
Well, I think Chris did a great job of telling that story, right? Talking about his outreach, and he kind of addressed that. And I think his comment, if I remember right, was, he's going to take care of Lucky before he takes care of himself, right? And we've seen that. I mean, we've seen that in some of the decisions that he was making, and that is, again, I think that's just an incredibly powerful story.
And I think that's why so many people were drawn to help him, because they saw him on the street and they saw how well taken care of the cat was. The cat even has toys. The cat has, way more possessions probably than even David has. So I think they saw that and they knew, like, this cat is not being mistreated. This is a really well-loved cat.
Very cozy. Look very cozy. So one thing that I wanted to, first off, while we're talking about David, I don't know if I even want to ask this, but have you had an update on David since?
Oh yeah, we're very close. When I'm not traveling as much, we're speaking maybe every week. He's still hanging in there. Awesome. He's still in the same shelter. He's still trying not to get COVID. He's still trying to get treatments. He's just hanging in there. He decided, I don't know if I should say this, it may be a spoiler, so maybe everybody.
Your call, plug your ears for a second.
A few seconds if you don't want to know, but he actually decided not to go through, the amputation that they wanted to do, because it would have only extended his life a little bit. It wouldn't have saved his life. So he decided to he should just live out his life as best as he can. So he chose the quality of life, and that's to spend as much time as he can with Lucky.
Yep.
Lucky mainly lives with Pam, who you saw in the movie,
Yep.
because the shelter is quite loud and stressful for cats. Um, they decided that was the best thing to do, and David would go visit, some weekends. So that's kind of what's going on right now. I'm happy to say we also saw him last month at our screening in New York, which was like,
Huh,
Cool.
nice.
Very
yeah,
That
cool.
is awesome.
it was with like nearly 300 people. All of the guys from New York were there. The stunt guy from Atlanta was there. It was a fundraiser for Flatbush Cats, which is the cat rescue in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and David got to see everybody. He wore a mask the whole time, and he got to see a lot of supporters that had never met him but had given to his GoFundMe. It was wonderful. It was like the one of the best
Oh,
evenings ever, and best one of the best screenings we'd ever had. It was really intense.
very cool.
Yeah.
One of the other things on David and Chris, and Chad pointed this out just probably about what hour ago when we were watching it again, and the interesting part was when David's in the hospital and he gets the phone call from Chris and he says, "Hey, I'm with I'm with camera guy Robert," right? And it's hilarious because Chris called to check on David, and he's like, "Okay, that's cool. How are you?"
Yeah.
Right? And it just showed that Chris wasn't calling to try, wanting to know about the
Yeah.
cameraman or even the movie. It was more about how are you doing. Let's get down to it,
Genuine concern for
yeah,
you.
just a genuine concern. I just thought that was just such a nice little subtle moment
Yep.
there during
Yeah,
during that
he's
scene.
always catching up, trying to get updates from David. I think Chris is maybe David's only male friend that checks on him
Very
on a
cool.
regular basis, and it's all because they can fawn over their cat pictures together, when they meet up. But that's
I can't believe how much Pez and Lucky they
exactly.
look like they came out of the same
I
litter.
know. It's
So
crazy. Yeah, it's wonderful. And I also have to say, like, that was an interesting time to shoot in New York. I wasn't actually there. I was on the phone, when all
yep.
that was happening, and Rob, the camera guy, happened to be on the East Coast with family anyway, so he was able to go, and they would have only allowed one person to visit at that time. So he had to capture everything on himself.
I'm glad you said that because I was going to ask you that just for the time this was getting shot in, and especially
Yeah.
around hospitals, right? I mean, that was like
Yeah, and
probably
especially,
the hardest place to get
yeah,
into,
and with
right?
David being so immunocompromised, we of course didn't. We wanted to finish the movie, but we didn't want to put him at risk either. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just one camera guy with a mask, a face shield, and a gown, and just 1 hour was all he had, and so he brought him some McDonald's and and spent an hour with him.
Well, thanks, Rob. Thanks
Yeah.
for doing all the camera work there.
Yeah. So on the subject of the camera work and the cinematography, I noticed there were a few shots that, like when you were talking about the stunt couple there, I saw a few scenes there that were just really beautifully shot. Like when you see what was his name?
Ryan,
The stunt.
Ryan.
Yep, Ryan. Okay, when he was like when they watched him jogging and he goes under that overpass and it says "This too shall pass" above it.
Yeah.
It's just like that's a beautiful shot. When I think it was him inside his living room, and the sun was just perfectly shining through that window there. Is that like are you looking for those type of shots? Are you the one that's like having the eye for that to see those absolutely masterful shots? I guess that kind of go over your head if you're not looking for it, but it just looks so cool when you see it in 4K. Big
I
screen
think
there.
it's both of us, me and Rob. Yeah, definitely things like the bridge and things like that. I'm like, oh, make sure you get that. But then it's up to Rob really to compose the shot, because it's not like, we're working super slim. We don't have like a monitor, so I don't really know what he's
Yeah.
getting. I just have to trust that he's getting it. But yeah, we worked with a lot of natural light because we didn't really, we're on a low budget. We're traveling around the country. We also don't want to spook the cats with a bunch of lights and equipment. So a lot of times we're not bringing in anything. We're shooting outdoors a lot. Those are some tricks of the trade. And then yeah, really all credit to Rob for he's actually not a cinematographer mainly. He's mainly a gaffer. So he's mainly lighting. So he's a master of lighting, but then it's kind of funny because like we'd worked with him, on other projects where he's lighting, and we noticed how talented he is. And then we're like, hey, can you shoot this documentary? And by the way, we don't want you to bring lights. And so it's like, and so yeah, he really knows how to work with natural light.
Have you worked with him before?
Other indie narrative. No, this is our first documentary for all of us. But we have worked with him on other indie films, like scripted. Yeah, where he was just in charge of the lighting mainly. Yeah, so he crew, but yeah, he'd always wanted to be a DP, a director of photography. So we were like, hey, this, you want to do this? We gave him the chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about this being your first documentary, I would imagine that shooting, I mean, Chad and I have never shot films. We just watch them. So I could imagine though, shooting a short or a feature is a lot different than shooting a documentary. Could you kind of contrast a little bit of that on how your experience was going into shooting a documentary versus some of the other film work that you've done?
Yeah, probably a lot less planning and prep. And like no script. Yeah, maybe I had like outlined a few things. Maybe I had done like a little bit of a shot list, but really like the difference for me is that having worked on both sides is that like a narrative film, you're constantly perfecting, and you're constantly in development to get ready for production. So you're constantly perfecting the script, then you're doing all the casting, you're doing all the locations, you're doing all this stuff, producing, leading up to the shoot days, which is 2-3 weeks, whatever. And then, if you did all your job right, if everything went perfectly, then everything will go smoothly. And then then you edit it and whatnot. And I feel a documentary is a little bit opposite because I think all the story and everything is in the end. So I went into this not knowing really what the story is. I had some idea, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna, film all these cat dads, and then I'm gonna come up with something. I'm just gonna, like cooking, like I'm just gonna have all these ingredients, and I'm gonna come up with something good to eat, right? And all of that is at the end in the editing process. And it also, you can't really script what happens in real life. So very, very often when you're working on documentaries, luckily I was only 2 years, but there are many documentaries that go on, 8-10 years, and things change. And it's like, you have to decide, whether you're going to change with it or not. So yeah, there's like so much unpredictability, and it's just sort of like, I have to say it's a lot less prep in the beginning because but also like since it's my first documentary, I knew it was low stakes at that time. It became higher stakes after the pandemic and David's situation. But in the beginning, it was just like, it's low stakes. Like it doesn't have to be like perfect, and it doesn't even have to be good. Like I could just, like nobody's expecting anything, right? From me, I can just, so it's like we can play,
Yeah.
Well, I hate to tell you, Mye, there are no more low stakes if you go to do another documentary. So the bar is high.
Everybody keeps asking me what's next, and I'm like, I don't know.
Okay, that was going to be one of the questions. So do you want to answer that? Do you have anything planned for next, or is this
I have ideas for sure, but they're bigger ideas that I need help. I need bigger producers to help me, mainly gain access. So there's a couple things. Like I'm really interested in like the Hemingway cats. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I have. That's where he has like they're all polydactyl cats, right? And
Yeah, and they're all polydactyl cats. I don't know why. I don't know what the story is.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to go meet them, shoot them, figure something out.
It's
Kind of like the same thing.
it's down in Florida, right? And it's basically a house
Mhm.
that is now ran by these cats that somebody brought him over a cat or two or something like that. And now all these cats just live in this house there. Like
Oh,
I
wow.
like a lot of cats, and I don't know. I don't know the full story, but
They have people take care of them, and I think there are tours.
polydactyls
But
are
yeah,
predators.
I just kind of want to go down there and see what's going on. But also, my husband may be relocating to Japan for a while, so I may, have a project. I'm looking for a project to do while I visit, and that could be cat related because obviously they're crazy about cats there.
Yeah.
So I would love to do something there.
So looking back at Cat Daddies and just all the different, the thing that was fascinating to me is you hit a lot of different sites as well from all over the U.S. with a lot of different folks. How was trying to schedule that as far as for you're going to Sedona, you're going to North Hollywood, New York City. During probably a pretty crazy time to travel in as well. So I guess what were some of the challenges just logistical wise of going to all those different locations?
Well, the good thing is since I made this movie on spec, I was in charge of my own schedule. So I didn't, it wasn't like I had to deliver to a studio or something like that by a certain time. So I could kind of go at my own pace. So the plan was we started in September 2019, and the plan was we were going to end in April 2020. That was the plan. So we almost kind of finished, but then we didn't. And then we were kind of like waiting around all year until we could get, David out of the hospital. And reunite with Lucky. So it was a waiting game the whole year. But I'd say it was just really we would shoot, maybe have a week or two, shoot again, and in between we have the time to maybe do a little bit of editing, just kind of like see is this working. So we were just shooting, editing along the way. I kind of enjoyed that. It's a less overwhelming than when you get to the end and you have this footage, this dump, right? And then you got to sort through and watch all this footage. So I kind of like that pace. And then, but it was really important for me I wanted to capture different environments because I know it's hard as a viewer to watch, so many characters. When you have 8 or 9 characters, it's like, how do you keep them straight? So having the different environments and colors and sort of like, the different occupations and personalities that they had, different cats that they had. I needed all the cats to look different. I didn't want them to all be tuxedo cats. So yeah, it just took a little bit of careful casting to sort of get that rounded out.
It's funny. One of my favorite lines, Clint and I both mentioned it. One of my favorite lines in the movie was when the guy says, "Please don't drive 300 miles to see my cat." and he'll come in, and here is Mye, who's flying across the country to go see other people's cats.
Yeah, exactly.
Only cat people will understand that.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing too, you talked about all the different characters. The other thing, you're not only shooting them and their cats, but it's like their lives too, right? I think about the guy and his roommate with Zulu, right? Who went from Oakland to then their house almost burns down to mudslides coming in. I mean, all of that's happening while you're trying to shoot your movie too. So I mean, it seems like there's a lot of life, that's happening that you kind of got to work around as well.
Yeah, all these things that really weren't expected at all. And I don't know if it would have been part of the movie, except that, we thought it should be because we had already been with the firefighters. So we had already had that footage. So then it just seemed like it just makes sense to kind of see the other side of it, somebody who, had to evacuate a fire and That was pretty. That was yeah. It was. I know that they were a little traumatized by it, even
Oh,
though they were okay.
I couldn't
But
imagine.
I remember being in LA and hearing about their evacuation, and I went online to one of those sites where you can like put in an address and to see kind of like are they on fire or not? And
Right.
that house was red. Like it was,
Oh,
that whole area was red. And so we thought for sure it was gone. And we had just seen it a week earlier. And luckily we asked him, like I said, this is weird. And I don't even know if we're going to put this in the movie, but I just feel like we should come back up. Like, is that okay? And I did think it was relevant because they were displaced for I don't know weeks to months. They
Yeah.
had to live out of hotels, and hotels aren't very friendly to cats, and I know that was a challenge for them. Not a challenge for the cats. The cats loved it. They loved the hotel life.
I thought it was a
Um,
great tie-in. I mean, that was
I
a
know. It was like,
beautiful way to tie that all in, and how that house did not go. I like that is a miracle in itself. Looking at that
how
fence right
close?
next to
Yeah.
it that is burnt down, and it's like, how did this not?
Yeah.
How did it not? That was
Yeah, and
amazing.
But
so many of their neighbors lost their homes. But I think, like I think it was defended by firefighters. They must have been defending it there at the time, and so it's just really important. I thought we should show this because we should show what these guys are out there doing, and how dare anyone take their cat away, Like
yeah,
these
yeah,
guys
for
these
sure.
guys should have whatever they
Yeah,
want.
yeah, absolutely.
That right there would be my outside of the don't drive 300 miles to pet my
Yeah.
cat comment. That firehouse defending the other firehouse, and
Yeah,
I think they said the chief got 15,000 emails that day.
yeah.
That put the biggest smile on Chad and I's face
For
when we
sure.
watched that. That is such a cool story.
A bunch of manly men sticking up for a cat at another firehouse.
Yeah,
I
not-
love it. More of that. That's what America needs.
Exactly.
But okay, so what other like I know you said that kind of just your love for cats. What kind of inspirations do you have as far as filmmaking and maybe this movie, maybe other movies that you've done, whatever? Is there any type of inspirations you've taken from other movies or anything like that that you really influenced your life?
I've been a film buff all my life. I love a lot of foreign films like French and just a lot of European films, Asian films. I love a lot of Japanese and Chinese films. I would say like I'm just a cinephile. I'm a lover of film. Doesn't
Love it.
matter what it is. Um, I would say, there is another film I get compared to a lot. I don't know if you've seen Cuddy, but it's the Turkish cat documentary.
I have not.
Oh,
Um,
huh.
okay, so yeah, you can rent that or stream that. It came out in 2015 or 2016, and I remember seeing that. So I remember hearing about that movie and wanting to see it for about a year, like following it. And I finally got to see it when it had a theatrical release in New York. I saw it in New York in a theater. I think I was sitting on the front row, and it was just such a wonderful in a sold out house, and it was just a magical experience. I mean, first of all, because Istanbul is so beautiful, but then it's all about the cats there that live on the street. Yeah, you should definitely check it out. I think you'd really
We
love
will.
it. It's great
Yeah.
cinematography. Really, it's funny and it's touching. And definitely that had some influence on me to make this film. It kind of like gave myself permission to make this film because that movie did so well, both critically and at the box office. And so I thought, well, there is obviously an audience for something like this. And also, I saw it again in the theater in LA. So I saw it in two cities. Again, packed house on the big screen. I just thought, like, I just want more experiences like this as a cat lover.
So with that, looking at you're wanting to shoot a movie with all these cats, I have to ask, which is harder, working with the people or working with all the cats? Because I think I might know the answer to this, but I'm curious to hear your side here.
I don't know. Like, definitely, probably people is easier, but you do have to deal with people's egos. But I will say, I also do a lot of commercial and corporate work with children. So I would say children are the hardest by far, more than
sure.
cats.
That's a whole different category.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
So I got. You mentioned a few other films there. And I'll take that one. I think it was Ketty, right? Is that what it was called?
K-E-D-I.
K-E-T-I?
K-E-D.
D.
K-E-D-I.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll put.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but
yeah,
I'm spelling
we'll
it
put
right.
it up here where we can stream it too,
Yeah,
so that
absolutely.
we can. Because we'll check that one out. Is there any other films that you feel like that if you had to recommend? Because we're guys who like movies. That's our tagline. We're a couple guys who like movies and like to talk about movies. So, is there another movie that if you had to recommend one movie to anybody in the world, you said besides your own, just say one movie that you wanted everybody to watch, what would it be?
There's too many, but I will mention a movie that's been on my mind lately, and it was nominated for an Oscar. So I don't know if you saw Ascension. Ascension starts with an A, and it was nominated in the documentary category just this past Oscars. And seek that out and watch that. And I honestly can't even explain to you what it's about, but it is amazing and it's like mesmerizing. And it actually, I think about it a lot, and I think about it's more like an essay than like a movie. And I don't believe there's any dialogue or narration. You're just gonna see a lot of images, and I kind of want to do something like that with cats, but it would be maybe too arty for people. I don't know, but it's a really cool movie. I think you will probably like it if you love movies.
Very cool. I really thought that I was going to have the answer. It'd be like, yeah, I saw that because there wasn't many Oscar movies that I watched this year.
So you typically watch about all of them.
I didn't get to see Ascension. I tried to do as many of the documentaries and stuff and try and cram them in, but that was tough. So I'll look that one up for sure. For sure.
Yeah, that's just the one that pops into my head, and I've been thinking a lot because again, people are like, well, "What do you want to do next?" And like, if I could do anything, I'd probably do something like that. But that would be a pretty big project.
So one thing that we noticed at the end of Cat Daddies during your credits, I seen in memory of cinema and flashlight, and I have to ask, are those cats?
Yeah, those are cats. So a lot of those credits came from certain Kickstarter backers. So that was one of their rewards. Was like I would put their name.
That's cool.
Okay, yeah.
I would put their name and their cat's name in the credits, and so So that was a friend of mine. He was a backer, and the names of a couple of his cats that recently passed. They were in old.
Gotcha. All right, like I say, it caught our eye, so we thought we had to ask there. But you also have cats yourself, don't you?
I have 4, and none of them like each other, so it's a pretty fun house to live in. Yeah, so and they're pretty mad at me because I've been traveling so much. So
yeah. And when you come back from traveling, that's what my first cat. You kind of talked about it. Your husband, how a cat found him, type of thing. That would be my story. My first cat, Petey, whatever. He was somebody else's cat. They were moving and they needed a place to take him. So it's like, okay, it's fine, but I don't know how a cat's gonna work out. First off, I have allergies, and I don't, if I can't take care of it, I need you to be able to take it back. When you get settled in, all this stuff. But my daughter and I fell absolutely in love with this cat, and it was incredible just to have that feeling when you come home and there's someone there that's so excited to see you, And I don't know, Petey was a great cat. He passed away some time ago, but yeah, he was a great cat.
Petey took you from not being a cat person to a cat person too. So
I am also allergic to cats.
Yeah, my wife gets so we have a couple more cats now, Blue and Porg, and Porg, Blue every morning gets up and licks her face, so she wakes up every morning with welts on her face from the cat saliva.
No.
But she lets it happen. She had to go to the eye doctor once because she drooled in her eye and had to her eye swelled up, and it's just. but she loves them, and it's just she wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I need lots of Claritin and Benadryl.
Yep, exactly.
Well, I just want to say thank you for coming on our podcast here. Like I said, when we sat down and had the ability to watch Cat Daddies, we fell in love, and we love your work, and we were looking so forward to taking this time to be able to chat with you here.
When's the first time this is going to be available to watch for our audience and stuff like that? So. Because there's going to be cat people that are going to want to see this.
I mean, be on the lookout. We have a website. We have social media, Cat Daddies Movie. You can Google it. We're hoping, I hope by next year or maybe earlier, maybe end of the year. But we're kind of just waiting for distribution. So they're going to launch the sales for the movie around the Cannes Film Market in a couple weeks.
Oh,
perfect.
We'll see what happens, and I hope it gets U.S. distribution and more people can see it. Otherwise, until then, I'm using it to raise money for cat rescues and charities and that are reaching out to us.
Love it.
So letting them eventize, the screenings and have some fun, and also, raise some money for the kitties. So while it's in my hands, I'm still, working on that. So we still have we'll still be doing in-person screenings for a little while. And all I can say is I'm so glad you guys, came to see it in person. I just think that's the best way to see it. It's so fun to see it with other people in the audience, other people who love cats. There's just nothing like it.
Yeah. A theater is the only way to watch movies. You watch it at home and it's just not the same. I totally agree. Theater experience is great.
Yeah,
great.
I'm so glad we met. You guys are a lot of fun, and I'm so glad you liked it. And I love talking to guys like you. It's just a pleasure.
Well, thank you again, and thanks for coming on here.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time. I know you've got a really busy schedule, and for you to carve out an hour for us here, that's been awesome. So I appreciate it. Love talking cats with you. Maybe this next documentary you do, or whatever it is you do next, we can touch bases again and maybe talk more cats.
Great. Stay in touch, and I'm gonna I'll keep listening to your podcasts.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Mye.
Well, hey, I just want to thank Mye again for taking the time out of her busy schedule to join our podcast here.
Yeah, coming from California in a hotel room, takes a little time to talk out to little old us. I really appreciate that. That was cool.
Yeah, and we hope that you all enjoyed this as well. So if you did enjoy this podcast, be sure to hit that like button, ring the bell, subscribe, so that way you can follow the rest of our content as well. So also, we just launched a TikTok. As well. So be sure to follow that. That's mirko.movie.guys. So
sure.
Something like that, right?
Put it up here.
yeah, exactly. So then I have to edit it, and that takes time. So
right, yeah.
Okay, well, with that, the credits are rolling.
The lights are coming on.
And that's the end of the show.